The Delusional Series, compiled according to the teachings of the Master, author Fafu. The Delusional Series, Part 2. How are delusions woven? How are delusions woven? Observe closely, and you will see that they are automatically fabricated. It's as if there are voices speaking, even though no one is actually speaking. These delusions are automatically woven into existence. People can now effortlessly enter into this state of automatic fabrication. But where does this automatic fabrication originate? How is it that you can automatically fabricate? It means that after hearing the Dharma, you have never observed how these delusions are woven, or how the play unfolds. You haven't examined what stance each character takes. When you can observe, you will understand to what point each delusion corresponds. They are not created out of thin air. They correspond to specific points. Have you carefully examined your own delusions? Have you studied them in depth? If you haven't, then you won't understand what I'm saying. In other words, you are already quite familiar with them, and as soon as I mention them, you begin to understand. The purpose of your fabrications is none other than to satisfy your greed, hatred, delusion, arrogance, and doubt. Or perhaps you begin to fabricate when they contradict your greed, hatred, delusion, arrogance, and doubt. Observe how they are expressed and upon what they rely. They rely on your consciousness and the records stored in your mind. Some are fabricated on the spot, while others are based on existing records. The initial starting point must be some sort of record that you have. Afterwards, it begins to weave, to play, to fabricate, and to perform, immediately forming a new series. Why does it weave automatically? Let me tell you where consciousness comes from. Consciousness is cultivated. In the past, it was said that consciousness is conditioned through exposure. You hear things, you see things, and people constantly feed you sweetness. You are conditioned in that environment. Or perhaps you are conditioned to experience bitterness. However, there is another kind, one that is not taught by others but cultivated by oneself. This self-cultivation is what is truly meaningful. Why does one cultivate? Because humans have an innate nature to explore and imitate. Exploration and imitation are their inherent talents. Even in the womb before birth, one begins to sense through the mother. At this time, the mother and child are interconnected. Through this connection, the child can perceive. The mother expresses herself, but the child doesn't understand what it means. Yet, the child understands the mother's emotions because the mother understands them. Being interconnected, the child understands too, but it cannot express itself. After birth, the child is completely dependent on the mother. The child acquires everything from the mother. However, at this point, the mother can walk, but the child cannot. The mother can speak, but the child cannot. At this point, the connection between the mother and child is severed, and the child becomes independent. As an independent being, the child cannot speak, cannot walk, and cannot do anything. To control its body, the child must learn on its own. With the help of adults, the child eventually learns to stand and walk. However, when it comes to speaking, adults can only provide sounds. The child must figure it out entirely on its own. After mastering these basic skills, the child begins to fabricate. Children are very good at fabricating, but at this early stage, their fabrications are traceable. For instance, adults can easily see through a child's deception or trickery. Why is that? Because children are still learning to fabricate, and their fabrications are crude and unconvincing. Thus, adults can easily discern their falsehoods. However, by the age of 8 or 9, adults may begin to find it more difficult to detect these fabrications. As people grow older, it becomes even more challenging. On one hand, adults are hindered by the 3 poisons: greed, hatred, and delusion. On the other hand, children learn to fabricate at a much faster pace. Their speed far exceeds adult expectations. Adults simply cannot keep up with children's rapid progress.